All right, just like that, we are live. Thank you so much for joining me. Whether you're watching this live or watching this back, I do appreciate you very much for being here, taking some time to hang out today and just talk about some of the things going on in the market because the market is the market, right? There's always a lot going on. First thing I see is I pull up my stuff here. I've been trying to work on expanding my ultimate Bitcoin canvas here, or GameStop canvas, as well as my Bitcoin one, where it's just like pretty much any ideas that I have, I want to keep writing them down and really just be able to have a timeline and just have necessary information at my fingertips so I can provide you guys with the highest value stream. That's something I really want to work on in the back half of 2024, going to 2025, provide more value with my streams because at the end of the day, I'm talking about money, numbers, finance, things to that effect. While I'm not in the business of giving financial advice in any way, and you should always make your own individual decisions, and if you so choose to, seek a financial advisor. I am in the business of just presenting information and sharing things that I think are interesting and worth knowing to people who are wanting to be in the know of what's going on with stocks, markets as a whole, economics, all those types of things, right? Anywhere from individual stocks to macro with interest rates to stuff going on internationally, the development of Bitcoin. Those of you that know me know I'm pretty big on Bitcoin, pretty big on GameStop. And yeah, I'm just going to keep becoming an expert on those in the best possible way, right? And I just keep an eye on simple metrics like IV's been dropping for GameStop just because it's not moving as much as it was not too long ago. And I see max pain is falling a little bit across the board. I know this week was 25 a week ago, and then it dropped to 24.50 when the week started. Now we're down to 24. So if you're not aware, max pain is the price point at which the most options will expire worthless. So I don't think it's totally unreasonable for GME to go back to 24 by the end of the week. But then again, it's never that plain and simple. A lot of times it does close close to max pain. But when you look at last week's chart, and we also got to get the stream tweeted out here. Then also, this is the Boston Consulting Group versus GameStop. So I definitely want to touch on that at some point today, right? After I get everything situated here. But as you can see, GameStop, quite the interesting chart we got here. Almost thought I was going to break out again here, but no, right? And anyone who's been here a while knows there's been so many situations like this. Like, nope. It's like, well, you think it's going to start running, and then every time you're like, how did I think it was going to start running? The same thing happens every time, right? But look where to close on Friday. So on Friday, the stock closed at 24.20. I believe max pain was around 25 or 24.50 for last week. So see what the rest of the week brings. But I personally believe GameStop's just executing. The algos are just executing, right? That's just my take. But let's go ahead and just get situated. Oh yeah, and I'll say it now, and I'm going to say it again. Tomorrow, first ever official Tetron giveaway. All you have to do is go on my X, retweet this or repost, whatever you want to call it these days, and drop a comment of what your favorite game is or what game you have the best memories of. For me, it was Minecraft growing up. Just so many good memories with my cousins, tons of different friends, and just really being I think the first game where I was like really invested. I was like, I can play this 24/7, and like I played it like way before it was popular, right? Before it became on the Xbox and the PlayStation and all these different devices and complicated things. It used to be like I played pre-creative mode and even a little bit before that. So I would say I consider myself a Minecraft OG, if I don't mind. Don't mind me saying that. But let's see. I want to get the tweet out or the post. Now on YouTube talking. Let's see. And in terms of talking NVIDIA, I don't have too much to say to clarify. Really, what I want to talk about is just what's going on with it as a whole and like how I think it kind of just displays what's going on with the markets. And again, it's just my opinion, so you're more than welcome to disagree as always. But definitely an interesting market we're in. And I mean, it's easy to say like unique, but I feel like there's always been unique times, or it's always felt unique previously. But it's just crazy to me that NVIDIA can move over 10% on no news at all, being that it's like a mega cap and one of the largest companies in the whole world. So it's crazy. It's crazy. But again, join the giveaway if you haven't already. You never know, you might win. Why not, right? Hopefully, first of many. I do plan to do a future one only for the stream because I appreciate you guys coming here. But just getting my feet wet, just dabbling, just getting used to, or like the functionality of a giveaway. I want to just make sure I do it right, and I just feel like with X, I know the best way to do it. With YouTube, it's a little harder because it's like how like on X I can just DM someone if that makes sense. So I gotta just figure it out, but I'm sure it's doable. It's doable. So stay tuned for that. Keep sticking around for the streams. Might catch the next giveaway here. But yeah, wait. I really thought my headset was backwards for a second because at work, that's how you know I was on the phone a lot today. At work, my headset comes out on this side, and then at home it comes out on this side. So sometimes I'm like discombobulated. Even when I get to work, and then I'm like, is this backwards? Oh wait, no. Then I just had to take a moment to realize. But yeah, so now that we got the stream posted out, I'm just gonna sort through some stuff on here. So we got the US debt clock, put all the GameStop stuff down there, the macro down here. Shout out to Platinum Sparkles. I'm sure you guys know her. She's posting good information, more NVIDIA. Okay, great. All right, this is what I want to do. Then Larry Chang. This is interesting because he did touch on this, and I definitely want to go through this post. He touched on it in his first stream, if you missed it. And I still have to watch back his second stream, but time flies. So this is Bitcoin. Put Bitcoin at the very end. And start with the meme, right? This is so accurate. Sell me this pen. It's AI powered. It's so true. It's literally every single company right now. It's AI, AI. We're using artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. Let me tell you. It's so accurate. It's crazy. It's the biggest buzzword right now, and feels like kind of a .com type of vibe, '08 kind of vibe, maybe, right? It's just like the market's in a forever bull market. Like, I don't know. I can't say that though, because one, during the .com bubble, that's when I was born. I was born 2000. 2008, I was 8 years old, so I don't have living experience in the market with those type of events. But just when I look back and study those and understand them, it's like the mechanics that we're seeing right now and functionality of the market, it feels like that, but it's also like the amount of money that's being printed, right? And the way we're just printing debt and essentially, right? This is very generally, very roughly speaking, essentially debt is fueling, like the printing of money is fueling GDP growth. So it's like, and like, yes, technically we have real GDP growth, right? But how accurate is the inflation number when you look at what the inflation number is based upon, underlying, all just food for thought there, right? But all right, just get myself situated here. Oh, and shout out to Morantz. I see he did another GME Street interview. I saw his first one with that, so I'm gonna definitely check that out later. I'm sure that's a grind going out there talking to people. But all right, let's see. Let's see. Oh, just getting the side chat up. Tetron, what do you say about moments when there are only one share in volume per minute, pre-market and aftermarket? Guy Rosen, thank you for being here. Manuel, hello. Hope you're doing well. Guys, so with that, that's a pretty specific question, but I'll say this, I think it's odd, but it's hard to say because with the pre and post market, right? There's such limited volume in general on a lot of stocks. Like here but I see what you're saying where it's like really, really little and it moves it dramatically. I feel like that's partly because there's just not as many shares changing hands on GameStop relative to your average stock. But let's just take like another random stock, right? I mean, this one's a little bit bigger, Broadcom. But, generally like volume's always lower and you do see some peculiar things across the board. So like part of me thinks, it's because of some of the shenanigans that go on surrounding GameStop stock. But also part of me thinks like the pre-market and post-market is very dry with volume in general and just a little bit odd, like across the board in terms of how it functions comparatively to just the day to day, 9:30 to 4. So I feel like it's a little bit of shenanigans, but also a little bit of just the nature of the pre and post markets, if that makes sense. But definitely, I'm sure there's people have more in depth analysis on that type of stuff than me. But that's my like basic thought on it, I would say. And I wish I could show you guys, but my webcam doesn't reach. Just upgraded my fish tank. When I say upgraded, got more plants. I got another snail. Got a couple fish, and I got a underwater frog. It's called an African edge frog or something like that. It's a completely underwater frog, which is very interesting to me. I've never even knew they had that. And then I went to the local pet store, a different one that I normally go to, and I was like, huh, well, that's different. Would you look at that? But yeah, this is so accurate. Some of this pen, it's AI powered. It's AI, AI, AI. Everything's all about artificial intelligence, right? But in terms of just what's going on with the markets, when you look at what the Fed says, it's always worth keeping an eye on what the Fed says, in my personal opinion. Even if you don't agree with them, even if you don't think they're telling you the truth, like it's at least worth watching, I would say. So you have the next FOMC meeting coming up in September. So today, obviously, as of right now, rates are unchanged. But basically, the Fed just said, hey, prepare for a rate cut in September. And the CME watch tool is pricing in that we're pretty much certainly going to have one, which I find very interesting. And then you look at Powell's comments. Still, the Fed kept key interest rate unchanged at 20-year high on 5.3%, despite calls for some economists and Democratic politicians to implement a cut Wednesday. Said Powell said that if inflation continues to fall, a reduction in our policy rate could be on the table when the Fed meets next, mid-September. And also, crazy to think, last day of July already, 7 months into the year, 7/12ths of the way, 7 out of 12 rounds complete. Remarkable how time flies, right? But before we know it, it'll be time for the next Fed meeting. It'll be heading into the fall, and we'll see what they do at that time. We're getting closer to the point at which it'll be appropriate to reduce our policy rate, but we're not quite at that point. A rate cut by the Fed is unlikely to have much immediate impact because it largely is expected by financial markets. Yet over time, lower Fed rates should reduce borrowing costs for consumers and businesses, including mortgage and auto loan rates. And you also think about a company such as, I believe it's called Enphase Energy, if I remember correctly. Like, interest rates greatly impact them because they're a solar-based company. And I'm just sharing this with you just to understand how interest rates affect so many different aspects of just markets and economics. But see, this stock, Enphase Energy, solar-powered stock, where they basically install like mega solar panels, just like in a very simple nutshell, is the way to explain it. They went on an absolute tear looking at their 5 year chart, and then you could tell right around when rate cuts started, just absolutely destroyed, right? Because these solar power that they're selling and these solar panels are massive, and businesses create like huge orders. And what do you do when you buy something that is very expensive, right? You finance it. So they were hurt by the rate cuts, the rate hikes rather, because increased rates means, generally speaking, higher rates in terms of financing the solar panels. So that really hurt their business in the near term. And you can see it's almost in correlation where, so I realized my face was probably covering the bottom of the chart, but it's almost in correlation where when the Fed started talking about, cutting rates, it kind of jumped a little bit, right? I think it was the end of last year where the conversation really started, and now we've kind of hung out in this range of like, okay, are they really going to do it? Not to say that it's a guarantee the stock goes up if the Fed cuts rates. Obviously, you'd have to look at their financials, and it's much more specific than that. But I just wanted to give a example of something that's maybe not so commonly thought of as a factor relative to interest rates. But rate cuts could also bolster the economy and potentially improve Vice President Kamala Harris's prospects in the upcoming presidential election. Former President Donald Trump has said the Fed shouldn't cut rates before the election. After September, the Fed's next meeting is 2 days after the election in November. So that's interesting. That's worth noting that the next meeting will be the last meeting before that we find out who the next president is, or at least when the vote takes place, right? But if you really think about it and you zoom out, whether they cut rates like a minor amount next meeting or they wait till the following one, is it really going to impact anything? Is it really going to be that impactful? Is it really going to sway the election? I find that very hard to believe personally, so I'm not thinking too hard about it. But I am mentally and in what I'm deciding to do, preparing for the fact that I do believe there will be a few rate cuts throughout 2025. But I do wonder if CPI creeps up again and just inflation metrics and just general numbers that they're looking at to make the determinations if there should be rate cuts. Do we run into a situation where we get a rate cut before the end of this year, two rate cuts in the beginning of next year, and then by mid-year it's kind of like, we don't want to go further because we don't want inflation to come back? I don't think that's out of the question. That's all I'm saying. That's just something that's crossed my mind. In a statement Wednesday, the Fed said that job gains have moderated and acknowledged that the unemployment rate has risen. The Fed is required by Congress to pursue stable prices and maximum employment, and the statement said the central bank is attentive to the risk to both goals. The focus on both inflation and employment is a major shift after several years of Fed officials focused exclusively on combating rising prices. They're ready to cut just as long as we don't get an inflation surprise between now and September, which we won't, says chief economist at Moody's Analytics. Better late than never. You know, there's always going to be criticism of the Fed, right? No matter who the Fed chairman is, there's always going to be criticism. And oh, you should have did this, you should have did that, because hindsight's always 2020, right? And I think a lot of people, and myself included, were saying rates should have been risen sooner. And if you rose rates faster previously, maybe we would already be able to be cutting by now. Just some food for thought there. So I can imagine a scenario in which it would be everywhere from 0 cuts to several cuts by the end of the year, he said. See, he's always so vague, right? This was the funniest thing to me. Oh no, was it Powell? No, oh no, no. It was at the Bitcoin conference, right? I don't know. I was mixing up Powell and Gensler for a second, right? So Jerome Powell, head of the Fed, Gary Gensler, head of the SEC, right? Head, but former Goldman Sachs banker. But it was so funny at the Trump Bitcoin conference, at his speech at the Bitcoin conference. He's like, and on day one, I will. Let me get my impression on. On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler. The whole crowd, whoa! Oh my God! I didn't know he was that unpopular. Let me say it again. On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler. It's just so funny to me. Like the crowd went nuts over that. He was like taken by surprise. He was like, I didn't know he was that unpopular, right? I don't know. I'm working on my Trump impression just for fun, But stocks added a bit to earlier gains, and Treasury yields raced after the Federal Reserve held its main interest rate at a 2-decade high, but gave some indication that an easing may be soon underway. S&P ended up 1.6%. So I feel like that's a pretty good segue into just what's going on with the markets, right? Like the S&P absolutely ripped today. So I think this takes me to S&P, right? Let's go to one-day chart. We can see the 5-day chart. Like we had this pretty big dip Tuesday. I would say it's a pretty red day. Starts to bounce back towards the back half of the day. And then today we just get a huge gap up, and then we move up further later in the day, right? So all of a sudden, we have all of this volatility occurring in the markets, right? So it's been pretty smooth sailing up. But here, boop, 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 a little bouncing around, right? We'll see if it continues. And this is just the index. But when you look further than that, you have stocks like Broadcom, and this is one I've been following and picked up a couple shares because Pelosi picked up a couple shares. It's a semiconductor. It's a very minor trade for me, very tiny swing trade. It could go to zero. It would mean absolutely nothing. If it appreciates well, great. More things I can put into another stock I like for the long term. But the Pelosi indicator is just too strong, and she just bought even more of NVDA as it dipped, right? Like right before it spiked up again. But for my point that I'm trying to get at here is not like just follow Nancy Pelosi. No, do not do that. Make your own individual decisions, but it's worth watching what she does. That's all I'm saying. However, Broadcom, $782 billion stock, moving 12% on no news at all. Just like how it moved down roughly 8% on Friday. No news at all. NVIDIA, no news at all, up 13%. A nearly $3 trillion company. Pretty much in the top 5 right now of largest companies in the world by market cap. And then you just look at the volatility where it just tanked again yesterday. Huge move downwards. no news at all. Suddenly, up 13%, no news at all. And then look, another 3+% in the after hours. It's remarkable. Like, when have you ever seen that in history for something to the scale that NVIDIA is? And so you could counter argue and say, oh, well, previously, there wasn't as much money circulating. So naturally, obviously, NVIDIA is going to be worth more than the most valuable company in the world 10 years ago, right? Yes, but was there ever a time where you looked at a top 10 company in terms of top 10 by market cap in the whole world, and it would make sudden 10+% moves on no news at all? Like, I find that concerning and just extremely peculiar, like, activity in the markets, right? Because the Kiyosabi letter, I finally, after butchering it a gazillion times, I finally figured it out, right? Breaking, NVIDIA officially adds 330 billion of market cap today. This is the largest single-day gain of market cap in any stock in history, including its current after-hours move. NVIDIA has added 390 billion today. Truly insane numbers. Very well put. And I think this 390 billion number, I think it's over 400 million billion, right? Let's be clear here with B billion number. Now that it's moved up even more, because I'm pretty sure when he posted that, or he, she, whoever's running it, group, it was only up about 2% after hours, so now it's up even more. So it's up about 400 billion. And what is it all because? This volatility is because it announced it's providing the world's leading robot manufacturers, AI model developers, and software markets with a suite of services, models, and computing platforms to develop, train, and build the next generation of humanoid robotics. I don't know what's going on here in this picture, but I just thought I'd share it. I think actually, as I accidentally reused this, I shared this Monday, but it's like AI is going to be here to stay. Like, it's a buzzword right now, and even if we do get a pullback and it's kind of overhyped for the time being, I think it's ultimately absolutely here to stay. So another aspect here, this is absolutely insane. NVIDIA, the third largest company in the world, is trading like a penny stock since its after-hours low seen just 18 hours ago. NVIDIA's added 300 billion in market cap, and obviously again up more. In other words, this really puts into perspective here. NVIDIA has added as much market cap as the entire value of Costco in 18 hours. Think about that for a second. Well, you can think about it very clearly when you look at what Costco's market cap is and the scale that they're at, right? 364 billion. And side note, right? What is Costco dramatically changing their business where they're up so significantly, right? They're up like 50% this year, but it kind of feels like we're in a general melt up of the markets where there's just all this money being endlessly printed and it just naturally flows to the top and it flows into assets such as stocks, gold, Bitcoin, real estate. But when the market crashes, right, that's when the big outflows start. And then if everything's built on debt, the debt starts to crumble, right? And I'm just speaking very generally here, and but it's much more complicated than that. But it's just crazy to just think very simply that the market capitalization of Costco, that is how much the swing NVIDIA moved in price, right? Imagine being able to buy NVIDIA, like let's say you bought the perfect bottom right here, right? You would have been able to make 15%, and then you sold in the after hours, maybe even close to 20% on like the third largest. I keep saying third, but it might be second, it might be fourth. It's kind of fluctuating with some of the other big tech names now, right? But think about, like, you could have swing traded, did a 1 day swing trade and made 15+% on Nvidia. Think about how crazy that is. It's not just some penny stock or miscellaneous stock. Like, it is a mega cap, not a large cap, not a big cap, not a mega cap, a mega cap. It's in the top 5 largest companies right now. It's just crazy to think that. And of course, Pelosi just so happened to buy the dip right in here, right? So we'll see what happens with that. Personally, not messing with Nvidia. I picked up a couple shares of Avgo, which is just a ticker, but it really is Broadcom. And then also they're in talks with OpenAI right now to make some chips for them. So we'll see what comes of that. But again, that's just a very tiny swing trade for me. Those of you that know me, mostly I'm a long-term investor. I'm just dabbling very little in terms of like swing trades and starting to sell options, just as I've built myself up over time, and I'm looking for kind of like the next chapter and some things I want to do actively while still passively holding my long-term positions, such as GameStop, Bitcoin, and S&P. Those are really my big three. So And I truly do believe, I think some people think this is crazy, but I truly do believe that GameStop is the hedge. That in a market crash scenario, this stock will hold up very well. Number one, because they have a strong balance sheet, and number two, because of the nature of the activity surrounding. I feel like that's the best way I could say it. But really, what I mean is, if there really are, and of course, make your own individual decisions at the end of the day, so many betting against it, so much leverage against it. If the assets that are being leveraged against it are dramatically falling in value in a market crash scenario, then GameStop theoretically would go up, right? Theoretically, on any position being closed. Not to mention, in a market crash scenario, they're able to then seek out companies to acquire. And I really do think, and stay tuned because I'm going to make a video on that. I'm going to try and do that tomorrow. I really do think that GameStop's ultimate plan is to wait to make acquisitions in a market crash scenario. So if you have those two factors combined, it almost in real time right now, I'm almost thinking, I'm like, is really the best case scenario for GameStop a market crash? But I don't. Nobody knows when the market crash is going to be, right? So for me, I'm going to focus on what I'm doing, and then feel good that I believe in GameStop regardless market crash or not in the future, right? I believe in the company, I believe in the management team, and they still got a long way to go. It's still going to be a challenge. It's not just like, oh yeah, piece of cake, right? Like, yeah, they have a lot of cash. They're in great shape, but how are they ultimately going to use that? And just from hearing very little from Ryan Cohen on the annual meeting call, like at the very beginning, basically said, paraphrasing here, we're in a time of unprecedented worldwide fiscal and monetary policy, and it won't be sustainable. That, to me, that's what I heard him say. I mean, he said it a little bit more detail than that. But it seems like he's saying like everything's overvalued. We're not going to go buy anything at this given point in time. So that would make me think they're just going to sit on their cash, accumulate as much interest as they can, and then when the right moment occurs, and the right moment being a scenario where valuations are falling, they'll then go into the market and make acquisitions. So what those acquisitions are to be determined. I get that some people are getting frustrated. I've seen an X like, oh, he's posting about politics now and he's not putting the money to work. Listen, I don't think the posting with politics has anything to do with his philosophy of where, like, I don't think his philosophy was impacted by politics in terms of the idea of waiting for a scenario where valuations fall to spend the cash and not just rushing to spend the money, right? So, because one could counter argue, right? Like they rushed to get into the digital asset game in terms of NFTs, and that really didn't work out for them. And it seems like they've pivoted away from that. But also, a large part of it has been regulatory framework in the U.S. has pretty much been non-existent surrounding digital assets, and that's also like a big thing that's being campaigned on now. So, in real time, I'm thinking, is this something they bring back? Do they still kind of have what they started with the GameStop NFT marketplace, the wallet? Like, if there was actual like legislation in place or just more guidance in how to navigate this industry that's up and coming, would that be something they get back into? That's something I wonder about because now all of a sudden, right, when you talk about Bitcoin, I'm bouncing around a little bit here, right? Russia lawmakers passes bill allowing businesses to use Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in international trade. So, and then I saw a senator officially put something out basically to create a Bitcoin reserve, and then now you have all three candidates right now, right? Kamala, RFK, Trump, they're all talking about Bitcoin to some extent, right? Like it's actually a focus of each individual's campaign, which to me just validates how it's up and coming, that it's, like you have all these different topics that are argued upon whenever it's like elections in general. And one of them now that has emerged that has never been there before is primarily Bitcoin and just the up and coming industry of cryptocurrency and digital assets. So I find that very, very interesting, right? And this is interesting. July 29th, the Mr. 100 Bitcoin address reported holdings of 4.74 billion worth of Bitcoin. It's nearly identical to the 4.73 billion worth of Bitcoin reported in Tether's Q2 attestation. So I didn't quite understand this. It seemed interesting, but I was like, well, how is Tether like making this money? I don't quite understand. Or it's like their assets, I suppose. Oh, so interesting. They own precious metals, corporate bonds, other investments, secured loans. Oh, I see. Okay, basically showing what they have. relative to holdings. That to me always seemed like a risk in the industry. Like Tether just seems suspicious to me, but I've never fully been able to wrap my head around it. So let's see if there's anything interesting in the replies, but it seems like a bunch of baloney. I could see my order through volume. Guy, that's crazy. Sorry, I'm just getting caught up in the chat, but that is, I mean, possible because if there is just limited activity like in the pre or post market, then you would theoretically see your volume. But in a way, that does kind of validate the idea that it's like extra dry on GameStop, right? But I don't know. It's interesting to see, but it's hard to compare, right? Because GameStop's so unique. But I do think, there is just less shares changing hands in general on the stock, especially in the pre and post market. GME, how will the lawsuits for shorting illegally cause the stock to rise? Treylac, thanks for being here. Hope you're doing well. So pretty much, I don't think it will directly cause the stock to rise. Let me read it again. How the lawsuits for shorting illegally cause the stock to rise. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it's more so just bringing attention to it and kind of validating. It's like, well, this is what maybe a lot of GameStop shareholders and just shareholders out there in general are talking about with all this shorting stuff. So I don't know if that necessarily related to GameStop moving in any which way or will, but I think it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. Hey, buddy, could you look at, what does it say? Garl. I don't know why it's cut off from here. Gary Network. Or, yeah, see that stupid heart. I gotta put the 100, but I'm trying to hide it. I'm trying to see exactly. Let's see, could you look at a Gary Network? Oh, you could do a poll? That's crazy. I didn't even know you could do that on here, so cool. But Gary Network, let's check it out. Why not? Oh, okay. It's like a particular currency. It's interesting. I'm not familiar with it. And it seems like it's been around a while. It's got a very low price point, but you always want to be careful with stuff like this. Unless you really believe in an altcoins use case, I do think you have to be very cautious, just given the history of them. But if you've done your due diligence and you do believe in it, I absolutely wish you all the best. I'm personally not familiar with it in any which way, but keep my mind on it for sure. And so yeah, we got NVIDIA. And then, by the way, if you missed it before, I'm doing a gift card giveaway on X. Follow me at Tetron Invest. Just repost, comment. You could win a $25 GameStop gift card. So, a winner will be announced tomorrow morning. So, do keep an eye out for that. Russian lawmakers pass bill. So, already kind of talked about this. Just Bitcoin is emerging, right? And it's being talked about worldwide. This is just to me shows like countries like Russia and China starting to become interested in it again. It's like it's here to stay. I really do think that, and it just validates like the use case for it and its purpose, right? And I'm really now starting to understand the Ethereum network better as well, and how the supply is created and burned relative to network activity. So that was really the thing that kind of made me skeptical about Ethereum for a long time. Like I definitely understood you could scale on it nicely, and it was being amended each time to make the network better, such as amending it to be proof of work, or sorry, proof of stake instead of proof of work. So essentially, you no longer be able to mine it. You could stake it, right? And that's how you can stake your Ethereum right now because of the upgrade. And that really also impacted the supply over time because the supply now is based on the activity of the network, from what I understand. So I'm really starting to warm to the idea of Ethereum and starting to think I should own more of it. And those of you that don't know, in terms of my cryptocurrency, I own about 90% Bitcoin, 9% Ethereum, 1% Loopring. Very small amount. So let's see. It's one of the things I thought I was going to show, but let's see. So yeah, obviously you guys have seen the debt, but I think now we'll go more into the GameStop stuff, right? With the short sellers, and then so two different things, right? First, I'll talk about I want to look at this case and the other one, right? I thought I had it pulled up, but basically I want to look at the case itself. So this is the We have, in 18 years of publishing, we have never been compensated by a third party to publish research. That's what Andrew Left says. The SEC and DOJ says hedge funds paid him for publishing stock reports and tweets. He tried to hide those payments using a third party intermediary and fake invoices. Allegedly, right? So, very interesting though when you read the details of these documents. It's tough, it's a little tedious, but Left's share of Anson's profits for trading around Namaste and IGC totaled more than 1.1 million. Left took steps to conceal that he was being compensated by Anson in connection using a Citron research platform by asking Anson to send him his share of trading profits through third-party intermediary, to which Anson agreed. Third-party intermediary submitted invoices to Anson funds for perpetrated research services that third-party intermediary never performed. So research purposes, and inaccurately stated that the amounts invoiced were for the benefit of the third-party intermediary, when in fact they were for the benefit of Left. And so it paid the third-party intermediary pursuant to these sham invoices. So basically saying like, oh yeah, we're paying this third party for research purposes, but really it was just going to Andrew Left. That's how I read it, at least, and it's allegedly. To collect his share of trading profits, Left then submitted invoices to third-party intermediary for consulting services. You know, right? Just how you have these large politicians that get paid large amounts from companies such as Citadel, Point72, BlackRock, all these big names, right? You have these politicians on both sides of the aisle get speaking fees, right? Or consulting fees for, like, usually it's a speaking fee with a politician. Oh, come to our big event and speak. We'll give you a huge speaker's fee. It's kind of like, oh, hey, remember that time we gave a lot of money? Maybe you want to help us get this done, right? Or maybe look the other way if something looks a little funny here, right? And again, allegedly, that's all I'm saying, right? Theoretically, that could be happening. In January 2019, Left entered into a compensation arrangement with Hedge Fund 2, whereby Citron Capital agreed to recommend trading for Hedge Fund 2. In exchange, Hedge Fund 2 agreed to pay Citron Capital a percentage of the alpha, the difference between the return of the particular security and the return on a predetermined risk-free benchmark for the trades. Although Left was responsible for entering into and carrying out this arrangement, Business Associate 1 handled day-to-day relationship with the Hedge Fund 2, Left often using a Business Associate 1 as an intermediary, directed Hedge Fund 2 to trade around reports and tweets issued by Citron Research. So what's interesting about this document, from what I understand, is, see, 2019 is quoted here. Most of it is prior to his involvement in GameStop. So it's like very interesting that the report, didn't actually include the specifics of GameStop, right? So I think that's worth noting there. So I have to look into this one more. And if you're curious, just look up this case number. It'll come up because these links look fishy. So like if someone sends it to you, you might feel a little sus about it. But you can just look up the case number. That's what I did here for the BCG one right before, and I was able to pull it up just like that, right? And we're going to be able to go through it here. And this one I'm interested in because Boston Consulting Group versus GameStop has been going on for quite a while, because pretty much the Boston Consulting Group was like, when GameStop Canada said, we don't need you, your consulting is baloney, then they were like, whoa, we had a predetermined contract. You're doing us wrong here. You're doing us dirty. You can't be doing that. And then GameStop's like, well, no, you didn't do anything, and the stock is underperformed. The company's not doing well, and that's what Ryan Cohen's probably saying as he walked in there, like, get the hell out of here. And then he posted that thing, that famous tweet a while back, like, ew, I stepped in shit. And this guy looks at his foot, and then it says, like, BCG on the bottom. Thought that was pretty clever. Classic Ryan Cohen type of post. But let's go through a couple other GameStop things here and miscellaneous, and then we'll get into the specifics of Boston Consulting Group versus GameStop. So Larry Chang on LinkedIn. In 2004, I gave $70 to Mark Zuckerberg and Eduardo Saverin, but it wasn't to invest in their company, the Facebook. It was to pay for their ride home after I told them I wasn't interested. Here's a full story of how my firm passed on a $1 trillion opportunity. Back when Facebook was in its early stages, I was the first investor to meet Mark and Eduardo. I was an associate at Battery Ventures at the time, and a meeting took place in my Massachusetts office. Our valuation wasn't what Mark and Eduardo were looking for, so we ultimately decided to pass on them. We believed that their company had a lot of potential, but the idea of investing behind a sophomore in college for a social network was unthinkable at the time. I found out too late that they didn't have a means of transportation and felt terrible learning that they had to pay $70 for a cab, remember pre-Uber days, from Cambridge to Wellesley. So I drove them back myself, dropped them at Johnston Gate, one of the entrances to Harvard Yard, and gave them $70 in cash to pay for their cab. I guess that if I put those $70 into the company at that time, they would now be worth a lot more. Yeah, you would have like 10,000x to $70, right? Little did Battery Ventures know that the company would evolve into a $1 trillion juggernaut a few years down the line. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't want that opportunity again. But something you learn in this business is that if you don't pass on great companies somewhere in your history, then you're not seeing great companies. I like that last quote. So it's kind of like, hey, well, if you haven't made a mistake, then you haven't seen good things, right? I think obviously saying in business terms, but that's how I kind of read it generally. So always appreciate hearing Larry Chang's thoughts, even beyond GameStop. And if this was in 2004, I'm not sure how old he is. I always kind of thought he was like in his 40s, but if he was in his 40s, that would imply like this was in his 20s in 2004, right? And that'd be pretty young to be. I mean, he said he was an associate, not owning Volition at that point, so I'm not too sure. But I definitely always appreciate hearing what Larry Chang has to say because as someone who's interested in business and wanting to eventually grow a business, build Tetron something great beyond just a channel and putting out content. What exactly direction? I don't know yet. To be determined. Just keep rocking and rolling and figuring it out. But with Larry Chang, he does put out good general business information, and I appreciate that. Even beyond GameStop. So definitely always nice to read what he has to say and about his experiences. And you should read about a bunch of people's experiences, right, to get just different perspectives over time. And then another general thing economically, high cost of living has been the most important financial problem for U.S. families for the third year in a row. In 2024, a record 41% of surveyed Americans claim that the high cost of living or inflation is their greatest financial issue. This is up from the previous all time high of 35% in 2023 and 32% in 2022. So, over the past 3 years, cost of living slash inflation has been the reportedly most important financial problem for citizens, right? I'd be curious what the other ones are. Additionally, high cost of owning or renting a home has been the second largest financial issue at 14%. To put this in perspective, even during the 2008 financial crisis, just 18% of Americans saw high cost of living as their number one problem. Many Americans can no longer afford basic necessities. It's true. It's absolutely true. I can tell you at 24, I know a lot of people who are just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to move out. Or they did, and they're like, it's so hard just to get by. Or just living like it's a very very simple life, which I'm okay with, and I'm mentally ready to deal with higher costs. I mean, obviously I don't want to. No, I don't think anybody does. But my point being, I'm mentally ready for it. I'm ready to be frugal when necessary and be as efficient as possible economically and just make the right decisions to do the little things right. But for the average person, it's not investing and doing a bunch of different things. What do? They go get a second job. They're not able to afford things they actually need. They start eating poorly, right? So it just really is impacting people like never before. And just, I can only speak to like the young perspective, but I feel like just hearing my parents talk and just family and other just adults that I'm interacting with in my life or of an older age are like saying the same thing. Like, yeah, like I've never felt like it costs this much just to spend on food each week, or just I buy this basic thing and I'm like, what the heck? And I feel like more recently I've really started to go to the grocery store more, making a lot more of my own food because again, it's a crazy world, and also I'm trying to get better at cooking. It's kind of a hobby of mine. I wouldn't say it's like a love of mine, but I do find it relaxing, especially with like the end of the day. And I'm like, all right, well, I want lunch for the rest of the week anyway. I might as well make myself something good. And then what happens is I wind up making it. I finish late at night because I do it like after dinner. And then by the time I'm done with everything, or usually I've even done it like after a stream, right? And by the time I'm done with everything, it's like, because for me, it's like 8:15 here right now. It would be like 10, 11 o'clock. And I'm like, all right, well, I just cooked this whole thing. I got to eat some of it, right? I'm kind of hungry. It's been a while since I've had dinner. And I got to eat some of it, right? Because I just made this whole thing. And all of a sudden, I eat a bunch of food. And then at that point, I'm so tired, I fall asleep. Not good to fall asleep on a full stomach. One, I feel like it's just bad for your digestion. And two, it impacts your sleep. So, enough rambling about that. I think it's time to go into Boston Consulting Group versus GameStop. Let's see. It's a Web3 streaming platform in Solana, so I'm curious. Disclosure Crypto. I appreciate that. I'm going to write that down. I'm curious about it. I definitely want to check it out. Let's write it here. What's it called? Carry Network. Appreciate the insight. I'm always down to learn. So on Solana. and then Web3 streaming. Check it out. I'm always curious. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's very unlikely I'll put any money into it, but I would be curious about using it and just checking it out. I definitely would start with that. So we'll see. But this is the plaintiff versus the defendant, Boston Consulting Group versus GameStop. So this case is filed by the Boston Consulting Group against defendant GameStop. Presently pending before the court is GameStop's motion to dismiss, filed pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure for the reasons set forth below. Motion is granted in part and denied in part. Factual background: defendant GameStop was once a highly profitable company, but by 2019, its financial prospects were in very poor shape. In order to reverse this trend in that year, GameStop engaged BCG, a consulting company. BCG was to evaluate GameStop's operations, develop solutions that would help GameStop remain viable. Together, BCG and GameStop identified an ambitious target of generating an additional $200 million or more in profit per year going forward, all as part of a plan to make substantial changes across numerous aspects of GameStop's business. And you can look at who BCG is aligned with and what they've done over time, and you kind of realize, like, seems like a bunch of bogus to me what they do. But make your own decision. After 4 months of working together, BCG and GameStop reached a written agreement regarding many of the details of BCG's engagement. This agreement was titled Statement of Work for BCG Support of GameStop's Profit Expansion Program, and it was signed on August 20th, 2019. Key thing to note here: way prior to Ryan Cohen, Ryan started accumulating shares in 2020 in the summer. The SOW described how, or statement of work described how BCG would provide support to GameStop in connection with at least 10 different identified work streams, which were spread across a broad range of GameStop's operations. In return, statement of work stated that BCG would be paid either a fixed fee of $16.5 million or an amount of variable fees, which is whichever is greater. So basically, a guaranteed $16.5 million. Pursuant to the statement of work, any variable fees owed were based on projected profit improvements as opposed to actual profit improvements. That alone, why would the old management team sign that? That's what I wonder, and it just kind of makes you think. And when you look deep into things, you're like, hmm. Resulting from BCG-led initiatives relating to the various workstream, the statement of works set out a process by which the parties were to work together in the future in order to try to agree what those projected profit improvements would be. These two agreed upon profit projections would in turn relate to 4 categories of potential improvement areas, 3 of which are relative to the instant case, this year meaning predicted profit improvement, next year meaning 2020, predicted profit improvement, and annualized run rate projected profit improvement, APPI. Contains detailed examples and data meant to guide the parties in discussions on how to project the profits improvements relating to various BCG initiatives in each work stream. Hold regular sessions to address issues related to their work together, including financial target and planning coordination. The parties refer to these sessions as thermometer meetings to the extent the parties ultimately agreed on projected profit improvements relevant to work streams, and in turn, the SOW required that the parties reduce those agreements in writing. Both before and after the SOW was signed, BCG employees and GameStop employees worked together under the terms of this statement of work. Indeed, BCG spent tens of thousands of hours working with GameStop across various work streams to analyze, develop, and support implementation of strategies across multiple areas of GameStop's business to increase profits. If they really cared about increasing profits and driving the company forward, it would have just been a variable rate based on their performance. That's what you would think. So why it's not, like, why it wasn't set up that way, I could not tell you, unfortunately. So that is the case, though. But eventually, GameStop allegedly began to default on its statement of work related obligation in 2 primary ways. First, BCG alleges that GameStop breached the statement of work by failing to pay its certain variable fees to which the parties never reached agreement. According to BCG, relevant to this category of breaches are the following actions by GameStop: failing to challenge with any supporting data, or otherwise failing to dispute at all BCG's assertions as to certain projected profit improvements, failing to provide necessary data, feedback, and approvals of projected profit improvements that would have been needed in order to determine the amount of variable fees owed, and failing to or refusing to even attend the contractually required thermometer meetings. So what that tells me is, like, Ryan Cohen came in and said, "This is bullshit. I met with them once. I'm not meeting with you guys anymore." That would have led to agreement on certain projected profit improvements and additional variable fees owed. Second, BCG alleges that GameStop breached the statement of work by failing to pay variable fees amounts that it previously agreed to pay, fee amounts as to which GameStop had agreed on the underlying related projected profit improvements. So a lot of words here, right? I don't want to go through the whole way through, but I want to get through the highlights. And this is the first time I'm reading it to clarify. The court first assesses GameStop's arguments as to Court I's breach of contract claims. Pursuant to Delaware law, plaintiff states a claim for each breach of a contract by plausibly alleging the following elements: the existence of a contract, whether expressed or implied, the breach of obligation imposed by the contract, resultant damages of the plaintiff. So failure to pay certain variable fees to which the parties never reached agreement. With regard to this first type of breach of contract claim, there are four primary questions that the court must answer in order to determine whether BCG has stated a claim. So we'll just go through the questions here. Don't want to get too in the weeds, but question one: was the statement of work, at least to its provisions regarding agreement on projected profit improvements and related payment of variable fees owed, a contract that is indefinite as to any of its essential or material provisions? And then question two: was the statement of work, at least to its provisions regarding agreement and projected profit improvements and related payments of variable fees owed, a type 2 preliminary agreement such that GameStop had an obligation to negotiate any open issues in good faith? BCG argues that if the court, as it is above, concludes that this portion of the contract should not be treated as one where all essential terms have been agreed to, then the court should at least find the agreement is still enforceable as a type 2 preliminary agreement. So reading legal documents, such a complicated process, is you can see all the sections that are referenced, basically referencing why something is being determined in some type of way or another. But then also you have the footnotes you have to account for, which like see like 6, so you have to look at where there's a little 6 right here. As the court's question 1 and 2, neither party has suggested that it would be inappropriate for the court to resolve these legal issues now on this record. Indeed, the parties are asking the court to do so via their arguments as to the instant motion. So with stuff like this, right, like the unfortunate thing is, well, I guess I could download it, right? And then when you're not sure about something, what you do is, right, go over to your buddy, ChatGPT, and let's see what it has. Like, I wouldn't do it like this, right? I would do it more so like, explain this to me. But I'm just curious what it says for this to start out. Summarize this court case. Can it do that? I think it can. Oh, wait a minute. It's not going to take that one. Let's see. Whoa. So this is not accurate, right? And then this is also why you don't just blindly trust ChatGPT. Who is William Simones? I have no idea. I have no idea. Something about testing services. Okay, well, that's why you don't do that, right? But what I actually want to do is like have it up on here, but then say, okay, well, right, we were looking at 6, or where were we? Now I lost my spot. So like if I let's go to a random page, right, or random statement. What I would do is like just ask to explain in simple terms. I think it was like page 10. But yeah, I feel like I'm just going through this the first time. I feel like I gotta go more in depth on this stuff before I come back and talk about it, get some notes. That's something I really want to do too, really start having a lot more notes. Explain this in simple terms, right? Like that's really a better way to go about it. So in simple terms, the court is saying that both sides in this case agree it's okay for the court to address some legal questions right now based on the information they have. Both parties want the court to make a decision on these issues as part of the current motion they're presented. So it's good to read on that. But let's just go through the questions. Really just go through the meat and potatoes today, and the getting in the weeds will be for a different day. So question 3, if, we'll skip this part because we read it a couple times, the statement of work amounts to a type of preliminary agreement, did BCG plead sufficient facts to plausibly allege that GameStop breached its duty to negotiate the open issues in good faith? So basically saying, did GameStop actually present a valid argument as to why they no longer had to work with BCG going forwards? And then if I was reading this, right, the third key question of the court is if, we just already read that, GameStop says the answer is no. In fact, it argues that any assertion that it breached is a type 2 agreement is a new and upheld claim in its view, and the FAC does not allege that any of statement of work provisions listed in BCG's brief contain an obligation to negotiate in good faith about profit projections, or that GameStop breached those provisions on basis. And Mark Robinson, like legal counsel for GameStop, he's probably very much involved in all this stuff. I don't know about day to day, but I would imagine pretty significantly. And question 4, has BCG sufficiently alleged damages relating to GameStop's alleged breach of the Type 2 agreement? Basically saying, can BCG prove that GameStop should in fact pay them? And the conclusion, for the reasons set out above, BCG has plausibly alleged a breach of contract claim regarding breach of a Type 2 preliminary agreement. This type of claim is viable in a count 1 and can move forward. Failure to pay variable fees after agreement had been reached. The court now turns to the second type of alleged breach of contract that BCG presses in count 1. GameStop's alleged failure to pay certain variable fees after agreement on those fees has been reached. Here, though, and even giving BCG every benefit of the doubt, the court, see, these are footnotes, concludes that there are just simply not enough facts pleaded to give GameStop fair notice of this type of claim. In part, this is because the relevant allegations of breach are made in only one sentence, which is essentially repeated 3 times in the FAC. In paragraph 13, for example, BCG claims that in many cases, GameStop refused to pay BCG's fee. Trying to read fast. BCG's fees even after agreeing to the projected profit improvements. Paragraph 33, BCG again similarly asserts that GameStop has failed to pay all fees due and owing. However, even despite their specific agreement as to the underlying projected profit improvements for certain work streams, and then in the body of count 1, BCG states that GameStop breached the statement of work by failing to pay BCG's fees, even for the work that resulted in projected profit improvements that the parties have expressly agreed upon. So, let's see, implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. So that's count 2. So again, I gotta really go through this, right? Let's just read the final conclusion and then we'll kind of wrap it up because again, it's very wordy, so like I really need to get more in detail. For the foregoing reasons, the court concludes the defense motion should be granted in part and denied in part. Most specifically, or more specifically, the motion is denied as to count 1's allegation of breach of contract as the Type 2 preliminary agreement contained in the statement of work. The motion is granted as to Court 1 in all their aspects, and also as to Court Count 2. BCG sought the opportunity to further amend the FAC, and any portion of the motion were successful. The court does not see BCG could plead a claim as to count 2 in light of the analysis set out above, and so it appears that any further attempt to do so would be futile. But as to BCG's attempt to claim in count 1 for inter alia breach of contract due to failure to pay agreed upon variable fees owed, BCG may be able to further state such a claim. Therefore, and because amendment should be permitted freely when justice is required, will be permitted an opportunity to file a further amended complaint to address this type of claim by no later than 14 days from today's dates. Appropriate order will issue. So if this came out more than 14 days ago, it seems to be wrapped up at this point, which, these legal battles are ongoing fees that for GameStop, how large, we don't know. It's not specifically identified in any recent financial filings. Could it be in an upcoming filing now that it's concluded? I certainly think that's a possibility, especially because we're just here at the end of Q2 now. Maybe now that it's wrapped up, they indicate like we spent XYZ amount of dollars on legal fees over these past few years. This is how much we spent this quarter. I don't know if they'll necessarily do that, but I would be curious to see if the BCG case would be referenced, right? And talking about making more lists, let's get ahead here, and I think I'll do a new note, right? Is this a note? No, we need, why is there's no new note option. All right, we'll just put it right here, but things to look for in Q2 2024 GameStop report. And I'll put the first one as, how did I do that? Where I just was temporarily. Okay, I had it and it was titled, but whatever. I'll figure it out later. BCG, oh, There it is again. What did I just do? Okay. I like that it's bigger. I'll figure it out later. BCG lawsuit concluded. Any details? Any specific information on PSA trading cards? Any indication of CandyCon / private label brand expansion? And this one, I don't really think so. So I think I'll put a star. And this one too, I don't really expect too much. So I guess, but this one I think is the most reasonable of the three, right? And those are obviously the things to look for: EPS, revenue, and things to that effect. But those are some of the things that just come to mind off the dome, right? So we'll see, though. We'll see. I mean, again, I think I gotta get more into this. So now that we got this downloaded, I'll probably add this on the canvas, right? And as well as this case here, or BCG versus GameStop is officially dismissed now. So pink arrow is when BCG got hired, but the job didn't get done. Green arrow is when Ryan Cohen bought in. These overpriced consultants must be joking with their lawsuit. And keep in mind, this was all the way back in 2022. So this has been going on for a long time, and it's really been dragged out. And I would personally argue that that might have been on purpose, because if you look at how BCG functions and their connections and the way they operate, and the fact that it wasn't just a straight variable deal. There was a huge underlying flat cost that they gave them. I do wonder though how much in legal fees it costs each side. That definitely is something I'm curious about. So, and obviously this isn't the best chart, but you could see, relative to where they were in and then GameStop was in. So aloha, do less. Hope you're doing well. What's up? What's up? Just going through some miscellaneous stuff. About to wrap it up here, but if you missed it, GameStop and BCG case now dismissed. So the foregoing stipulation of the parties accepted and approved. This action is hereby dismissed with prejudice, with each party to bear its own attorney's fees and costs. It is so ordered. This is as of yesterday, so it is officially done in the books in terms of BCG and GameStop. So I don't know how many legal fees it cost them. I am definitely curious. And then we also have, some stuff going on here, or I think I X'd out already with the Andrew Left lawsuit. High cost of living, Fed talking about cutting rates. We'll see if it actually happens. It's being estimated that they absolutely will before the end of the year. People are saying, oh, it's going to impact the election. I think, by the way, there's only one more meeting before the election, and that is mid-September. The next one will be a couple days after the election. I personally think whether there's a cut or not is not going to impact the election in any which way or impact anything in the grand scheme of things. So I think that's kind of an overhyped point right now. But I do think we're going to get probably at least one cut towards the end of the year and a few into next year. But then I think it's possible inflation comes back a little bit and they kind of hold off. Like they start cutting. I don't know the exact timeline, but they start cutting, but then kind of realize inflation's coming back a little bit. Let's chill with that. And we'll see. And NVDA is trading like a penny stock right now. So there's that. And Kiyosabi letter, they do a great job highlighting like the things going on in the markets. And it's crazy that when you think about it, going from here to here was like moving the amount of market cap that Costco is worth. $380 billion swing. And it's $390 billion after hours, and this was before it went up even more. So it's really like a $400 billion swing in a 24-hour period. It's truly insane. It truly is insane. And then lasting, obviously, big Bitcoin guy. You guys know Bitcoin Magazine was putting out info, and I have my own Bitcoin list, right? If you guys don't already, I also recommend set up lists on your X page, right? Like I have my For You, I have my Following, I have my GME Elitists, I have my finance accounts, my miscellaneous big accounts, hockey, football, mostly memes, Bitcoin. Got to add Ethereum soon. So if you're on this list, should be truly honored. I've been lazy with adding to my list, all right? I'm advocating the list, but I've been lazy about adding as of late because I don't know. I just kind of situated them a while ago, and now I've kind of been forgetting. And I don't know. I was posting a lot on X. I was trying to get to the monetization to grow and just do more giveaways and just scale further, right? But you have to post and be on there so much, and I feel like just being on X is like it's got to be burning brain cells in my brain endlessly because there's just so much crap on there, and I'm like there's great stuff, right? Like the GME Elitist is my favorite list. Like got a lot of good information on there and people who post and anywhere from memes. I said rotting my brain, right? But memes for GameStop, I'll allow it. Information, people are truly believing in it for the long term. I like to stay in touch with them, see what they have to say. But just scrolling through everything else, replying to everything else, it's a lot. And then also, I feel like I'm just rotting my brain away. And I'd mostly rather just focus on YouTube. So I'll still post on X, and I'm gonna still do these like long form type of posts about like Larry Chang here, for example, is my pinned one right now. And if you're curious about some writing I've done in the past, in my highlights tab, I pretty much have my videos. Oh, they have captions on here. I have my video. I have long form posts. I'm on vacation. Here's a video from a while back. I don't think I uploaded this one to YouTube. This was actually after an all-nighter that I took this video, so I was like, all right, you know what? And I found it like a couple weeks later, and I had forgot about it. But so here's another one, just long form about what's going on with GameStop and how they might move forward. Share offerings, not share offering. I'm sorry. Yeah, share offering coverage, margins, SG&A. Our buddy Andrew left. Right, this is my biggest tweet to date. It's actually crazy how much engagement on this. Like, it's actually insane. And then Berkshire trading volume off exchange, talking about like everyone already forgets the Berkshire glitch. It's like it never happened. Poof, it's gone. Everyone just forgets, right? But that was like one of the most bizarre things ever. I think underratedly bizarre. And it's just like swept under the rug. It's forgotten about. Nobody remembers anymore, right? But last thing I'll leave with, if you haven't already, follow at Tetron Invest on X. I know I said I won't be posting as much. I still absolutely will. And then also be posting updates for the stream. Like I always tweet when the stream is going to be, right? Like I tweeted out when it starts, tweeted out usually at least a little bit about GameStop each day, and then just letting people know of when the stream's going to be, right? I post a schedule every Monday. And then this was my travel video. If you guys want to check it out, it's also on my YouTube. This is just pretty much summarizing my whole experience in a short video. Huge shout out to my brother for helping me out with it. He's a great editor, and he's trying to figure out what he wants to do. I told him you should make these like long form, like YouTube documentary type things, because he's really good with the edits. I'm like, you should have to study something and then make documentaries on it. People are interested in that. Maybe we'll collab on that in some way, right? It'd be really cool to kind of do tell my own story of GameStop, right? And have some different individuals on potentially to tell how they see the GameStop story and share their perspectives, right? But that's a huge thing. Just to brainstorm out loud. But last thing, join the giveaway. Just repost, add a reply, and you might be a winner, right? I'm going to do a randomized spin tomorrow morning around 10 or 11 a.m. Eastern. So you have from now till tomorrow morning to enter if you haven't already. So Andrew left, never right. Carter's Corner Pocket, thanks for being here. Hope you're doing well, brother. It's true. Andrew should have left, right? Andrew never left. Oh, should have left, never right. Right? He has so many different nicknames. He's just such a clown. Like, I don't know. He kind of looks like a lemon, right? His head a little bit. I don't know. I don't like to go personal, but he just seems odd and just like the way he's gone about things. And like, I think he genuinely enjoys the attention. Even like the GameStop shareholders hating on him, just people attacking him for his short selling and being very public about it and how he's gone about it. I think he genuinely enjoys it, and the lawsuit maybe is an indication of that. And he's kind of found a way to use that to his advantage, where he's coming out. I was like, oh well, GameStop's a terrible company, and then maybe he had long exposure. Everyone thinks he's short, but he's long exposure because he thinks he's firing everyone up, and it's going to keep the momentum going, and he's going to make money on it, right? Yet they say Roaring Kitty's the one that does market manipulation, right? Where meanwhile you have people like him going on CBC and saying all this stuff. Roaring Kitty just powers up a live stream, says some very basic stuff, very simple, nothing specific, and everyone's like, "Oh my god!" And speaking of, we haven't heard from Roaring Kitty in a long time, right? And then I'll actually wrap it up. Oh yeah, and if you missed it, um, Ryan Cohen changed his profile picture. Some are saying that the transition is done. GameStop's officially transitioned. What does that mean? I haven't seen anything yet, so we'll see. But so this is the last post over a month ago at this point. Will we get a post in August? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. But because I can. Let's see, it's GameStop baby. Got my Pokemon cards, crypto cards. Cheers, Captain Tetron. Gaming with the Captain. Captain, Mark. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you popping in. Yo, Tetron, make no mistake. What up, what up? Oh man, I can't end now. Everyone's popping in. So what's up, what's up? It's GameStop baby. Got my Pokemon cards and crypto cards because I can. This is the way. For me, I've been buying my PSA cards. I keep showing you guys. I got my Justin Herbert from GameStop. All sadly PSA 9. I feel like I'm going to regret that one day, but it is what it is. Starting off small. Justin Jefferson. Picked up my CJ Stroud. And then I've had this Aaron Judge one for quite a while. See, I should have did this. I could still go back and do this. Look at my GameStop order history. Put the date I bought it and the price I paid for it. And then I got my Card Smith in here. This is the nicest one I have, so it's a one of so many, or I guess I should be doing this. Ooh, check it out. 97 and 99. Limited edition. This was from Series 2. It's pretty dope. It's kind of like a Bible type of thing for Bitcoin. And then I have Series 1. All right, we got Series 1. They're still in here. And basically, I put them all in cases, right? I could show you guys again real quick. See, just some miscellaneous like type of things. I thought they're pretty cool. It's like Elon, like Cyber. Oh yeah, this was before the truck even came out, right? And look, now all of a sudden, has anyone else been seeing a lot of Cybertrucks out of nowhere? It's like crazy, like how they're just everywhere all of a sudden. I got this Mt. Gox, which is like basically a bunch of nonsense. Got this car. And I got this pile of trash. This kind of looks like Citadel, but no, I'm just kidding. BitConnect, everyone remember this? BitConnect, what's up? Like this guy, oh my god, so cringe, so cringe. I hate to admit it, but I owned a tiny bit of BitConnect back at that time. But I was a very naive investor, and I was talking about how I've learned a lot over time by making my silly mistakes early, right? And that's a great example. But at least at that time, I had very limited capital to use, and I was smart enough to realize, like, you shouldn't put a lot into something that is very, very speculative and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And there was a reason it didn't make a whole lot of sense. It was a bunch of nonsense, right? I have a couple more cards in here, but I haven't got any currency yet. But what I was trying to go with is basically I got one of Series 1, one of Series 2. So I feel like I need a Series 3 now because I've kind of been doing one of each. I like the Cardsmith and all. I'm not like the biggest fan, I would say. Like, not that I'm against them, but I'm just not like I'm more of like a sports card kind of guy. So I got some miscellaneous ones. I think I opened these actually on a different stream. All right, so we'll just go through them again. This one is barter. Oh, look, this is similar to the one. See, this is very similar to the one I have, but that one is a limited edition one. This one is a non-limited edition, and this is from Series 2, so that's interesting. All right, maybe that one's like a foil, or I have it right here. Wait, I can just compare with you guys. You're here with me. So, oh, okay, this is a green foil. I see. So there's like a limited. I just realized I had the same one. So the green one, if I'm trying to put it in focus, the green one is the limited edition and from Series 2. But this is also from Series 2. Wait, yeah, so they're both from Series 2. Wait. Maybe this one's from Series 1. Now I'm getting mixed up. My bad. But, see, damn, everyone here all of a sudden. Crazy. Double it. Oh, yeah, gaming with the captain. Are you saying did I? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Because I've seen what you do on White Rabbits giveaways. If you don't mind, brother, if you don't want to, I totally understand. It's totally fine. But if you want to double it, I really, really appreciate that. And I think whoever wins the giveaway would absolutely appreciate that. So shout out to you, man. I think that's awesome that you double these giveaways. I've seen you do it with White Rabbit and a couple other people, and it's incredible. So I'm definitely going to shoot you a DM after this, and we'll be in touch, and we'll figure out how to do it. Maybe we'll collab in some way. I don't know if you want to do that or still dabble getting ready to collab, if that makes sense. So, yeah, Tetron's super envious of the rated cards. We still don't have those north of the border. Candy Con has arrived, though. Leapfroggles, nice. That is, I mean, it's nice that the Candy Con arrived, but that is unfortunate that you can't quite get it there yet. I had more cards previously, and when it was in like that bull cycle, like in 2020, 2021, post-pandemic cards were kind of hyped up again. Or even a little before that, they were being hyped up. Like I was buying and selling them a little bit. And then I really just kept the Aaron Judge one, and now I started accumulating like football ones again because I'm really big on football and hockey. And hockey cards, like there's not as much demand for them as football, right? So we just got another miscellaneous blockchain. And I forgot you guys can't. I forgot I didn't switch it back, but I was looking at my X account a moment ago and seeing that. Shout out to you, Captain Mark, is doubling. the giveaway. So look at that. You could win a $50 GameStop gift card. Stay tuned. See, these are all my Series 2. I like this one. You know, you got the good old Shiba Inu, right? The closest to Bitcoin, to Dogecoin, I would say. But this one, Yapstones, interesting. But really, that framed one is the only one that I have is like limited edition, and this is Proof of Stake. I like this one actually. This one's pretty dope. But proof of stake's basically Ethereum, so it is kind of interesting that it's Bitcoin. But oh man, when will GameStop come to the UK? Yeah, that's the thing. Like with GameStop shrinking and operating less stores, right? Like that's good in terms of profitability and trying to get things on track. But the unfortunate thing is like they just lose exposure, and I feel like what they've tried to do is like really scale things back and then operate to the point, obviously now where they're net profitable. Of course, I'm not going to get these back in, but I know I have card sleeves somewhere, but I misplaced them. It's probably like right in here. It's literally right here this whole time. It's literally right here in this drawer next to me. Too much shit in this desk, but I feel like what they're trying to do, and what they have done, is they've scaled things back now, right? Where they're at the point where they can turn a net profit, right? You see they've worked on their margins, they cut SG&A a ton, and yes, they were negative the last quarter, but they were profitable for full year 2023, and you count for the interest income in 2024 that's going to come in. It seems near certain to me personally that they'll be net profitable. Of course, a lot can change between now and the end of the year, so I guess I shouldn't say certain, but it seems very likely. But having said that, like they've scaled back to the point where they really can just operate and make sure everything they have in place is operating well and efficient. And now they can look, okay, well, how can we scale up again, but this time do it in a way that is consistently profitable and we don't hurt the business model, or we don't ultimately burn cash on the bottom line, right? So I'm also curious, like, will they ever open more stores like Milan, Italy? That seemed like a pilot store, but given that they didn't open more stores like that, more experience-based stores with the 3 levels, I kind of wonder, did that not go as well as planned? I thought we'd maybe see those pop up in other major cities around the world, but maybe not. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. That is something else that pops into my mind, but see, they just left Ireland. Yep, I did see that. That's true. Not just a couple years back. Yep, I remember 2023. I think they were scaling down operations there. But Giga, hope you're doing well. Leapfroggles, everyone in the chat, we'd love to see it. Let's see, make no mistake. It's not revenge he's after. Yes, sir. Oh, shout out to you, man. Shout out to you. I really appreciate you, brother. That's awesome that you're doing that in terms of doubling it. Yes, been seeing them all over. Annie, thank you for being here. Hope you're doing well. It's a reckoning. Yeah, I mean, hey, that's how it goes sometimes, right? But oh my gosh, what a journey this is. What a journey. It's crazy. We're in the back half of the summer of 2024 and still covering the GameStop story, still rocking and rolling. The forever bull market is still raging on. That's what I call it, the forever bull market, because it feels like the market never goes down. It just feels like a forever up and up and up, right? Especially this past year. Like this is just nuts, right? And 5-year chart, and you thought this was a recession, right? At that time, but then you zoom out and you're like, that really wasn't like relative to 2000 or 2008, right? But I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller, so I can't tell you what's going to happen. I think you have to make your own individual decisions, but I really do think that GameStop's going to be all right in the long term, no matter what happens in the short term. So whether we're in a market crash or not a market crash, I think they're all right either way. But I almost start to think more and more that in a market crash, like things get really good for them. They have that opportunity to make an acquisition, and then also they're in a place where they're financially well. The only counterpoint could kind of be is if the business isn't doing well because they don't have as much revenue, obviously that's not good. But if they set themselves in a way to be always profitable, all just food for thought here. But I think the monthly candlesticks are really interesting right now, and this is how July is going to close, given that today was the last day of July. So we'll see. Do we kind of just float in this 20s range? I feel like my gut feeling, and I've been wrong before, so please don't blindly listen to me. I don't give financial advice. I'm just telling you what I personally think. My gut feeling is that the stock is going to move sideways between $20 and $30 for the rest of the year. Maybe as low as like 18, but when you get below 20, you're looking at a situation where almost double the market cap is represented in cash. Or I'm sorry, almost half the market cap is represented in cash, because roughly, we'll see for sure what this number is in the next earnings report, which added to the list, right? Let's see, total cash, total interest, I should say total cash per share, because I want to get an exact number. This is a rough estimate based on the capital they raised. They're about $9.62 per share. So if it gets to a point the stock is trading at $19, literally 15% of the share is represented in cash. And so long as they're profitable, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe they're not doing anything exciting right now, but financially, like, you're getting a pretty good bang for your buck, in my opinion, right? But again, make your own decision at the end of the day. And I do wonder if we do get another sudden rally out of nowhere with nothing to news wise with the company that really orchestrates it or drives it to happen, and we just get another sudden hype cycle. Do they issue more shares again? I mean, look, they first completed this one. They raised $933 million on 45 million shares issued over a 6-day trading period. That was pretty quick. That seemed pretty surprising. And I was like, okay, great. Now they have 2 billion. Then out of nowhere, right? Not out of nowhere, but just a few weeks later, they're able to go out and issue 75 million shares at an average price of $28.49 and bring their total, essentially raise another $2 billion, getting their total cash to roughly 4.15 billion. Again, a rough estimate. We'll get an exact number on the Q2 earnings report. But to sell 75 million shares into the open market over a 3-day trading period is unprecedented. And most of them were really sold, I think, this day during the Roaring Kitty live stream. And then this Monday, obviously, and then Tuesday, it seemed like the market, the fact that the stock was rallying late in the day, it seemed like it was either somebody new or the market just started to price in that the share offering was already complete. So it seems like they probably did this one in 2.5 days. And that's just crazy to think about, that they're able to sell that many shares for that price point. Meanwhile, the stock price, when you look year to date, it was as low as $10 at one point, or technically $9.95. If I told you right here, mid-April, right, or let's say simple numbers, start of May. So it's been May, June, July. It's been 3 months. If I told you 3 months later, the stock price will be more than double what it is today, and the company will have raised roughly $3 billion in cash, you would have said, you're crazy, Tetron. You're crazy. What are you talking about? Like, if I told you that right here, you would have said, what on earth are you talking about? Even if I told you that at the start of the year, you would say, you're crazy, right? If you look where the year started, it started at roughly 17. You'd be like, okay, well, they're going to raise $3 billion in the middle of this year, and the stock price will be higher than it is today. You still would have said, you're crazy. That's not going to happen, right? So to me, the fact that the share offerings were completed so quickly just shows there are people who want the shares. When I say there are people, I say that very generally, and people are also include institutions. I think institutions want shares, individuals want shares, and I don't think all institutions want it to just open a long position. I think it's because some of them are betting against it and they want to have shares to hedge their bets against it, right? Or certain firms are potentially closing during this period, right? It's hard to say with the way the reporting is, the nature of swaps, things being rolled over. Some speculate that the expiry of the swaps had something to do with what went on here with this price action. That's all up for debate. So, checking many catalysts incoming. Trust me, bro. Hey, Jay. Can't not trust the trust me, bro, right? Gotta trust the trust me, bro, right? But do keep in mind, no dates. No dates. I'm a big advocate of that. No dates, right? Like, you can believe in the long, sure, you can follow dates, right? Dates are fun. Don't get me wrong, like, if you enjoy them, but don't buy calls based on dates. Of course, no, I don't give financial advice. So if you want to, I can't stop you. But I'm just saying, time and time again, there's been, well, on this date, this star is supposed to align with this star, and we have the perfect thing that's going to happen. Oh my goodness. And it never happens. And when did this happen? When nobody expected it. When everyone least expected it. Out of nowhere. It just, right? Like, I didn't see this coming. This was so sudden. It was crazy, right? It was so out of nowhere. It was so bizarre, right? Roaring Kitty comes back, 2 share offerings. it's being talked about as if it's at the closest level it was in terms of social sentiment since 2021. And also the most volume, right? Like we didn't see volume like this until this period after 2021. We went all of this time, right? We had a bit of a spike, right? Started to get kind of remotely close to what we saw in June 2021 in March of 2022, right? But not really, right? This volume here is still bigger than this, but this is the closest we've come to 2021 volume, right? So just general social sentiment. So I think though that generally speaking, it's fallen out of this like people talked about like a very long-term wedge. You know, those who know me, no, I'm not a big TA guy, right? Like if you just kind of look at it like this, and I'm drawing it very roughly, right? Like you kind of just look at it like that, right? I don't know. That's not a great TA analysis right there, right? But the point being, you could see it was just in this elongated period, right, where you remove this line right here. It was just an elongated downtrend, right? And obviously there was ups and downs, but just generally was an elongated downtrend since January 2021, right? Very generally speaking. This seems like the first time since we broke out of that, and then again with all the cash on the balance sheet now, imagine the stock does go to $10 a share. I would be shocked, number one, and number two, in a way, ecstatic, because it's like I'm basically paying for that point the amount of the amount that they have in cash per share. So I'm basically buying an equivalent to what my cash is worth, and then it's so long as they're turning a profit, it's like the sky's really the limit with that, right? And anything goes below 10, algos are going to pick that up, right? Algos are going to see that it's naturally undervalued, right? So I would think, but algos could be manipulated in one way or another. So just food for thought. But no, I would have given you a free high five. Yeah, I'd say you're crazy, but we're all a little crazy, and we crazy stick together. Do less. I like that. I like that. Thank you. I appreciate that comment. Nothing will stop the inevitable from coming here. Hey, I like the emojis, Jay. I like it. I can approve of the emojis. Although with the emoji theories and Roaring Kitty, honestly, I don't know. I don't think too hard about it. Sure, maybe it's something, maybe it's not. But again, if you guys haven't already, join the giveaway at Tetron Invest on X. Just repost, comment. You could be a winner. And shout out to uh, Uptown, upright. Oh, up, down, upright, up, down. Mark, aka the captain. Make sure you guys follow him as well. He's awesome. He's also going to be matching the giveaway, which is incredibly nice of him. So shout out to you, Mark. Make sure you guys give him a follow too for good measures because he's a good guy. So let's see what's up. No dates except the dog days are over on August 11th, which is when Ron Kitty closes his Chewy position and goes all in a GME. Make no mistake, I actually haven't heard that one, believe it or not. But that would be. Let's see. Let's get this ugly line out of here. But that would be right here. I mean, a lot can happen between now and then, right? But also August 11th, it does fall on a Sunday. So that Monday, does he announce it or does he tweet it that Sunday, right? I would find that interesting. But I personally wouldn't make any trades on that. But again, make your own individual decisions. And it's worth keeping an eye on, right? I'm kind of keeping an eye on Chewy just to see what's up because at certain points it felt like it was perfectly, as Roaring Pika put it. I'm sure you guys have seen him on X. They're touching tips again. That's what he would say. But yeah, so I don't know if they'll keep correlating in any which way. But I think I'll leave it there for today, guys. I appreciate you very much for being here. I wish you the best of luck in the giveaway. Again, shout out to Mark. Make sure you guys follow him because he's doubling the giveaway. So shout out to him. Drop him a follow. Checking out what he's putting out there. I'm sure you'll appreciate it. So yeah, just keep rocking and rolling, driving forward. And I really feel like I have some evolving to do. GameStop's got more evolving to do. I have more evolving to do, right? I really want to get better at note taking and details. And I really want to use this as a main reference point, but I want it to flow better and have more structure in my streams. But give me some time, guys. I'll get there. It might take longer than I want, but I'll get there. So thank you very much. Touching yacht tips is a cosmic thing to say. Yeah, no, it is true. What's going on with Cosmic, honestly? I haven't seen him in a while. I mean, I haven't looked what he's up to, but I wish him the best. I hope he's doing well. Because I think, everyone kind of has a role in the saga, I would say. Some people post memes, some people post information, some people read financial documents, some people come up with crazy theories. Like, everyone kind of has a role, and there's no, like, defined roles, but there's, like, to me, that's part of what makes the saga so beautiful. And he was, like, the hype man, the whoa helicopter wiener, right? Just say like the most crazy shit. Like I found it funny, right? I found it entertaining, and I remember watching him a while back, and I was thinking to myself, am I really listening to a guy in face paint talk about a stock? And I was like, yes, yes, I am. He's entertaining. I like it. So, but why'd you giggle when you said touching tips? Whoa, do less. That's it's just funny. I don't know. It's just funny. But if you're trying to apply something, brother, I have a girlfriend and we're very happily together. I assure you that. But it is funny to me. So you're funny. Oh my god. He's in space. Uh, elongated and touching tips. You're gonna get Tony De Niro excited. Yeah, you guys are too funny in the chat. Oh my god. But oh my god. What a world we live in, right? What a world we live in. It's crazy. To another wedding this past weekend. I went to one in Croatia, and then I went to one when I got back. This one was like girlfriend's family friend, so I really didn't know. Not that much of her family was there, so I really didn't know anyone. But just have a couple drinks, you vibe, just a little dancing, right? My girlfriend likes to dance, so I'll dance. Whatever, I'll make a fool of myself. But when you don't know anyone too, like who cares? Who cares? So like, sure, yeah, you can say, oh, there's gonna be a wedding video. I'm like, but is people gonna zoom in? Who's that guy? Why is he dancing like that, right? And I'm just like, nah, you just gotta be confident. Just confident and chilling. Demonstration, do less. This is not a demonstration channel. Or actually, here's your demonstration. Boop. I'll do a headphone demonstration. Or you could say, the tips of my glasses are touching, right? Touching tips. Tips of the glasses, right? Tips of the glasses. Tips of the headphones. Tips of the trading cards, right? A little demonstration for you. Maybe this is a demonstration channel after all, but yeah, I think I'll leave it there now that I've given you guys a demonstration. But I wish everyone all the best. The story, I think, is far from over. There's going to be more ups, more downs. Just be mentally ready for it all. I think that's the best way to go about it. But at the end of the day, make your own individual decisions. Figure out what's best for you. Enter the giveaway because why not? You could win a $25 gift card. By the way, it might actually be 50 because Mark is going to be double it. Make sure you follow him at up, down, up, up, right. The captain, gaming with the captain. You could basically win a $50 gift card. All you can do is repost and comment. You could be a winner. Winner will be announced tomorrow morning. So, all right, everyone. I hope everyone has a great night. Keep grinding, keep working towards whatever you're going to do, and I'll do the same, and I'll see you next time. So, take care.